Yosemite is home to the most beautiful views on Earth, but for 5 people, these postcards became the last thing they ever saw. In this video, we're looking at 5 tragic deaths that prove nature doesn't care how experienced you are. It was June 17, 2014, near Ribbon Falls in Yosemite National Park, on an unnamed, lightly trafficked granite face, roughly 400 feet tall, unevenly warmed by early morning sunlight. Marcus Rodriguez was 28 years old and worked seasonally as a climbing instructor in the Eastern Sierra. His job focused on rope systems, fall factors, and anchor redundancy. Among co-workers, he was known as methodical and disciplined. Outside of work, however, Marcus had grown increasingly interested in free soloing. He believed climbing without protection removed distractions and sharpened decision-making. Over the previous year, he had soloed several short granite faces under 200 feet, all without incident. Marcus had practiced this Ribbon Falls route multiple times on rope. The climbing involved technical foot placements, shallow crimps, and lateral traverses where body positioning mattered more than strength. He documented sequences in a notebook, noting temperatures, time of day, and how friction changed as the sun reached the wall. His plan was to climb early, before heat softened the rubber of his shoes and sweat dulled his fingertips. On the morning of June 17, conditions appeared favorable. The temperature in the valley hovered around 56 degrees Fahrenheit, with light wind and low humidity. Hikers moving along the nearby trail noticed Marcus beginning his ascent shortly after 6 a.m., carrying only a chalk bag and wearing tight climbing shoes. One visitor briefly recorded the climb on a phone from the trail below, capturing wide shots of his progress against the granite face. For the first 200 feet, Marcus moved steadily. The lower section followed a clean granite slab with small edges and reliable friction. Witnesses later recalled how controlled his movements appeared: slow transitions, frequent pauses, deliberate foot placements. Around 250 feet up, the route steepened slightly, forcing him into a series of side-pull crimps that required precision rather than power. By mid-climb, the sun had fully reached the wall. The granite warmed quickly, and chalk marks from previous climbers began to fade. Marcus paused longer between moves, shaking out one hand at a time. Although the air temperature remained cool, sweat accumulated under his fingers, reducing friction on the polished holds. At approximately 320 feet, Marcus reached the most technical section of the route, a lateral traverse across a shallow overlap. The move required shifting weight onto a thin right-hand crimp while smearing his feet on nearly featureless stone. He tested the hold once, adjusted his stance, then committed. As his weight transferred, his right finger slid, not abruptly, but gradually. The edge had been worn smooth by repeated use, offering minimal texture. Without a rope or stance to retreat to, there was no opportunity to reset. His hand slipped free, and his feet lost contact almost immediately. Witnesses on the trail reported no audible shout or visible attempt to recover. The phone video later confirmed that Marcus lost contact with the wall in a single motion, leaving no opportunity to arrest the fall. He fell backward from the wall, struck a lower ledge with his left side, then tumbled head down through open space before impacting the talus slope below. Park visitors immediately called emergency services. Nearby climbers reached the base within minutes, but found no signs of life. Yosemite Search and Rescue arrived approximately 25 minutes later and confirmed Marcus had died from catastrophic trauma sustained during the fall. The coroner's report cited severe head injury, internal organ rupture, and multiple fractures consistent with a high-velocity fall from height. There was no equipment failure involved. Investigators found chalk residue on the rock, scuff marks where his shoes had slipped, and reviewed the brief phone footage to confirm the timing and mechanics of the fall. The route was quietly noted in internal safety briefings, but no signage was added due to its unofficial status. Marcus's death did not make national headlines, but among local climbers, it became a somber reminder that even familiar routes offer no margin without protection. The recording was retained as part of the incident file and later referenced in climbing safety briefings, though it was never released publicly. Marcus's death became a documented lesson in how skill and confidence collapse when friction fails. But granite wasn't the only surface in the park that punished overreach. Along the river below, winter made danger look solid, until it wasn't. It was January 9th, 2016, at the Merced River near Sentinel Bridge. Snow quieted everything, the air stayed below freezing, and fast water moved under a thin layer of ice. The winter light pulled people closer, hiding how easily solid-looking ground could give way without warning. Jennifer Walsh, 31, worked as a freelance wedding photographer focused on adventure elopements. She was known for staying composed during difficult outdoor shoots and often worked alone to keep control and cut costs. Her portfolio showed couples on cliff edges, summits, and frozen landscapes across the West. Followers admired how close she positioned herself to danger for dramatic angles. This shoot was unpaid, a favor for college friends seeking winter engagement photos. Jennifer viewed it as a chance to strengthen her cold weather portfolio, which typically brought higher paying work during peak season. Winter photography along the Merced River carries hidden risks that are often underestimated. Flowing water rarely freezes solid. Snow forms deceptive bridges over thin ice and open current. January water temperatures sit near freezing, triggering instant cold shock. Solo photographers often skip tethers or spotters for efficiency, leaving no protection when footing fails. The morning temperature held at 28 degrees Fahrenheit, with fresh snowfall smoothing the riverbank into a single, unbroken white surface. Jennifer placed her clients about 15 feet back and began inching closer to the water for reflection shots. A second camera was set up behind her, recording her work for short reels, while her main camera ran in continuous shooting mode. The snow-covered edge looked solid, extending several feet over the river. Witnesses later said she tested the ground with her boot, pressing down and shifting her weight carefully. When it didn't move, she took another small step forward. From their position, the edge still looked solid, unchanged from moments earlier. She stopped, adjusted her footing, and leaned slightly to reframe the shot. The snow beneath her feet dipped just enough to notice, then settled again, giving the impression it had held. She hesitated, then stepped once more. This time, the surface failed. The snow crust split apart without warning, collapsing under her weight. She dropped straight through and hit the water hard as the current shoved her sideways. The shock was immediate. She tried to breathe and inhaled water instead, an involuntary gasp triggered by the cold before she could steady herself or regain control. She kicked and reached for the edge, boots scraping for traction that wasn't there. Ice shattered under her hands as the river pulled her roughly 40 feet downstream. Her head struck a submerged granite rock, leaving her disoriented. Within a minute, her movements slowed as the cold seized her muscles, her strength fading as the current held her under, and the recording captured the final bursts of bubbles before the water went still. The couple immediately called emergency services. Due to winter access conditions, terrain, and the need for cold water recovery gear, rescue personnel reached the site approximately 28 minutes later. Jennifer's body was recovered from beneath an ice shelf downstream where the current had pinned her. Emergency responders initiated resuscitation efforts on site, but ceased after extended attempts showed no cardiac response. The coroner determined the cause of death to be accidental drowning due to cold water immersion. Significant water was found deep in both lungs. There was no evidence of prolonged hypothermia. Incapacitation occurred too quickly for extended cold exposure. Bruising on the forehead and face was consistent with underwater impact against granite. Based on video evidence and physiological findings, loss of consciousness occurred in under 3 minutes. The couple canceled the engagement session and never requested the recovered images. The incident was formally logged as a documented Winter River fatality, contributing to seasonal safety advisories. Jennifer's final footage showed how fast cold water removes control, even before panic fully sets in. In the backcountry, snow does the same thing, only heavier, faster, and with far less chance to surface. It was March 3, 2017, in Tenaya Canyon, Yosemite National Park. Overnight warming weakened late winter snow, leaving hollow slabs over unstable layers. Meltwater and fresh footprints masked instability on the steep enclosed slopes. David Kim was 19 years old, a first-year engineering student drawn to difficult terrain after months of watching mountaineering videos online. He had no formal avalanche training and had never completed a safety course. His outdoor experience was limited to basic camping trips, but he believed preparation meant equipment rather than education. His pack was loaded heavily with camera bodies, lenses, spare batteries, and accessories meant to document challenging environments. He carried no avalanche transceiver, probe, or shovel, only a whistle and standard hiking gear. Tenaya Canyon in March is considered advanced avalanche terrain. Wind-loaded slopes form beneath the canyon's granite walls, and spring sunlight rapidly destabilizes snowpack by late morning. Experienced travelers recognize these slopes as no-fall zones during warming periods and avoid crossing them entirely. Avalanche warnings had been posted at access points since March 1st, advising against travel during active thaw conditions. David entered the canyon via an informal, unmaintained approach commonly used by experienced climbers and skiers. The route bypassed staffed trailheads, but passed clearly marked warning signage. He continued upward as temperatures climbed from overnight lows near 15 degrees Fahrenheit toward the mid-40s. By late morning, direct sunlight had been heating the slope for several hours. David stepped onto an open traverse beneath steep rock walls, an area known to funnel snow into a narrow runout below. With each step, the surface collapsed slightly under his weight, his boots punching through the upper layer into softer snow beneath. The heavy pack shifted his balance backward, forcing wider, slower movements. Witnesses on higher ground later reported hearing repeated hollow thumping sounds, classic indicators of slab instability. As David crossed the slope, he stopped twice to adjust his load, sinking knee-deep each time as the snow settled around his legs. He continued forward, moving deeper into the chute. At approximately 11:23 a.m., a sharp fracture ripped across the slope above him. A clean crown line opened nearly 150 feet wide as a slab close to 3 feet deep detached and began sliding as a single mass. The snowpack failed all at once. David attempted to move laterally, but the slope was already in motion. The slab accelerated rapidly, breaking apart as it descended. Snow surged around his legs, then his waist, pulling him off balance. Within seconds, he was swept downhill and forced beneath the surface as the avalanche funneled into a narrow depression below. The moving debris compacted quickly as it settled, piling deeply in the terrain trap at the base of the chute. When the snow stopped, the surface hardened, leaving no visible trace of where David had been moments earlier. David was buried more than 20 feet below the surface. His camera continued recording, capturing only muffled pressure and darkness as oxygen was rapidly depleted. A witness immediately contacted emergency services, but without avalanche rescue equipment, no effective search was possible. Yosemite search and rescue teams arrived approximately 45 minutes later, deploying dogs and organized probe lines across the debris field. David was located after nearly 3 hours beneath densely compacted snow. Rescuers initiated recovery procedures, but there were no signs of life. The coroner ruled the death accidental, caused by asphyxiation due to avalanche burial. Compacted snow restricted chest movement, preventing breathing. No air pocket formed, and David's arms were pinned, eliminating any chance of self-rescue. Loss of consciousness occurred within minutes. Footage recovered from David's camera was later used in avalanche safety briefings, illustrating how rapidly conditions can deteriorate during spring warming. In the months that followed, his university added mandatory avalanche awareness education to outdoor orientation programs, emphasizing that experience cannot be replaced by equipment alone. We've got more recorded tragedies ahead, so subscribe if you want to see how ordinary days in unforgiving terrain can turn fatal in seconds. It was July 28, 2015, on the Half Dome Trail. Sun baked the granite, the air thinned with height, and shade disappeared. Miles of exposed climbing turned effort into strain. Water ran low, sweat stopped helping, and the body began overheating faster than training or determination could fix itself today. Lisa Thompson was 35, a software engineer from Sacramento who had spent the previous 8 years training for ultramarathon distances. She had completed multiple 50-mile desert races, building a reputation for disciplined pacing and restraint. Her goals were personal, not promotional. She kept detailed training logs and focused on efficient movement over technical terrain. Lisa favored minimal carry weight, a common ultra-running practice, sometimes reducing water below recommended levels based on prior race experience. She had informal community support, but no sponsorship pressure influencing her decisions. Ultra-running on high granite carries different risks than desert races. The Half Dome Trail climbs about 4,800 feet over 16 exposed miles, with heat reflecting off rock. Safe attempts usually require several liters of water and conservative pacing. Unlike races, there are no aid stations or reliable water sources once climbing begins. Lisa's prior experience relied on structured support environments that did not translate cleanly to this setting. A regional excessive heat warning was in effect, with valley temperatures forecast near 98 degrees Fahrenheit and limited overnight cooling at elevation. Lisa began at 5:30 a.m. on a permitted day hike, carrying 1 liter of water and electrolyte tablets, planning, incorrectly, to refill later. Her running partner, Leo Yang, wore a chest-mounted camera used for private training review, not public release. By 8:45 a.m., around mile 8, hikers descending warned them about heat exposure and lack of shade. Lisa declined to turn back, expressing confidence based on prior hot weather performance. By mile 10, Lisa's pace slowed markedly. Her speech became thick and delayed, an early neurological warning sign. The footage showed her finishing her remaining water with more than 5 miles of exposed climbing remaining. Her skin appeared flushed, dry, and unusually warm, consistent with early heat illness rather than dehydration alone. Multiple hikers later reported seeing her stumble, misstep, and briefly brace against rock, though she refused assistance. At approximately mile 12, shortly before 11:30 a.m., Lisa veered off the trail and collapsed onto sun-heated granite. Leo reached her within seconds. She began seizing almost immediately, full-body tonic-clonic convulsions lasting roughly 30 seconds, followed by jaw-clenching and frothy saliva caused by airway disruption during seizure activity. Her skin was hot and dry, not sweating, a hallmark of exertional heat stroke rather than exhaustion. She lost consciousness within 2 to 3 minutes. The camera continued recording during the collapse and seizure. Emergency responders were notified by radio relay from hikers lower on the trail. Rangers reached the site first and initiated emergency cooling. A rescue helicopter arrived approximately 20 to 25 minutes later, consistent with terrain constraints. Immediate cooling was initiated using ice packs and IV fluids, but Lisa remained unresponsive. Her core temperature measured over 107 degrees Fahrenheit, a level associated with rapid brain injury. She was evacuated to a valley medical facility where advanced cooling continued, but she never regained consciousness. The post-mortem determined the cause of death as exertional heat stroke. Extreme hyperthermia caused cerebral edema, brain swelling, triggering seizures and loss of consciousness. Kidney failure and cardiovascular collapse began before evacuation was completed. Once core temperature exceeds approximately 106 degrees Fahrenheit, survival drops sharply even with rapid treatment. Time from collapse to death was approximately 4 hours, with irreversible brain injury occurring within the first 30 minutes. The death was officially classified as a heat-related fatality on a major trail. Lisa's running community removed summer high heat efforts on exposed routes and adopted strict hydration and turnaround rules. The incident is now used privately in wilderness medicine training to show how quickly heat stroke can turn fatal. Lisa's collapse proved endurance can override physiology once cooling fails. The next death required no effort at all, only gravity, time, and a slab of granite letting go from above. It was September 12, 2018. On the valley floor beneath El Capitan's southeast face. Cool night air gave way to sudden heat, stressing old granite and widening hidden cracks. Dust sat motionless as tourists walked nearby, unaware that pressure had finally lined up for gravity to release without warning below. James Patterson was a contract geologist specializing in rockfall hazard assessment. At 45, he had spent 12 years mapping unstable granite throughout the valley, developing risk protocols that balanced public safety with access. His fieldwork was methodical and patient, focused on long-term observation rather than dramatic conclusions. He often spent weeks in one location, tracking subtle crack growth and temperature-driven stress changes. James trusted the predictive models he helped refine, built from seismic readings, thermal patterns, and historical rockfall behavior. His assessments had led to multiple temporary closures that quietly prevented serious injuries and deaths. Rockfall prediction studies how granite reacts to heat, moisture, and seismic stress. El Capitan contains deep fractures with no surface warning. Daily heating, cooling, and freezing moisture widen these cracks, but failure timing can't be predicted. James carried standard survey tools with only a hard hat and vest. That morning showed no warning signs. Temperatures dropped just 6 degrees, and seismic stations recorded normal baseline activity. James began work at 8:15 a.m., documenting a talus field created by older rockfall events during a scheduled monitoring window in an area open to the public. Fixed security cameras in visitor areas and road corridors were operating normally, capturing wide-angle footage of the valley floor rather than targeted geological monitoring. James was positioned approximately 350 feet from the base of El Capitan, within an area historically classified as lower risk during normal conditions, though not immune to rare long run-out events. When he knelt to examine a fractured granite fragment, his field notebook later showed detailed measurements and sketches collected over 3 weeks of repeated observation. At 10:42 a.m., a granite slab measuring approximately 15 feet long, 8 feet wide, and 3 feet thick detached from the southeast face at roughly 1,800 feet above the valley floor. The failure occurred along a subsurface fracture line with no visible surface warning, making detection beforehand impossible. The slab fell nearly vertically for approximately 7 to 8 seconds, accelerating rapidly under gravity. One security camera captured the falling rock entering the frame seconds before impact, clearly showing James's position below. He had no warning and no opportunity to move. The slab struck him directly while he remained kneeling. The impact force was sufficient to pulverize underlying rock and soil, producing a small local seismic signal consistent with documented Yosemite rockfall impacts. The granite slab, estimated to weigh several tons, crushed James instantly on contact. Emergency responders were notified by nearby visitors, and camera footage later confirmed the timing and location of the impact. Crews arrived within approximately 11 minutes, but recovery efforts focused on scene control rather than medical aid. The slab had embedded roughly 18 inches into compacted ground, completely compressing the body beneath it. Heavy lifting equipment was required to remove the rock safely, a process that took several hours due to instability concerns in the surrounding area. Seismic and visual records provided precise timing and confirmation of the event. The coroner determined death was instantaneous, caused by catastrophic traumatic compression. The force destroyed all vital structures simultaneously. There were no defensive injuries, fractures indicating movement or signs of awareness, confirming James had no warning. Death occurred almost instantly, consistent with the physics of high-mass vertical rockfall impacts. James's field notebook was recovered intact beside the impact zone. Camera footage later confirmed the timing and trajectory of the slab during the investigation. His final measurements were later used to refine runout models, making his last recorded work part of the safety system he helped build. Thanks for watching. If you like these stories, click here.